the photo on your screen now, what we want to do is start the other side, so the other front that we need to make. And what we're going to do with the right side facing us, so if you have a stitch marker on your granny square, you are going to be looking at your granny square and you're going to see your stitch marker, so that's the right side facing us. And if you had a granny square that you turned and you didn't have a right or a wrong side, then you want to have the, I've got to think about this, you want to have yours looking exactly like the photo. And what we're going to do is attach the yarn to the top left shoulder. So basically, if you put yours up the right way, so look at your crochet and have it up the right way so the armhole is at the top, you're going to attach the yarn on the other side of the granny square on the shoulder. So grabbing our yarn, so mine's here, I've just cut mine off from the other side, and we're going to attach it to the, like I said, the shoulder, the top of the shoulder on the other side. And for me that is right here. And I'm just reading my instructions. And what we want to do is put our crochet hook in there. I'm going to attach this. Oh, trap for new players. I've just noticed the very different contrast in the yarn there. This is actually good that I've done that, because remember how I said with this yarn you're going to need a different ball for the other side. So this is the ball I just cut off from the left side. I'm going to show you how much I've got left in case you're actually not crocheting along. I've got a heap of yarn left there. So yeah, we do not want to attach that same ball because it's continuing on with the colour change that we had on the other side. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So you're going to grab a new ball of yarn, and you'll see here, apart from the yarn vomit, that this is a very, very close match to that because it's starting in the right place where it should. That's the only way I could describe it. But if you're making one in one colour, or if you're making one with stripes, so if you're making one with stripes, you want to grab the same colour that you started with on the other side of the cardigan. I want to remember that. If you're using the exact same colour for the whole thing, I think that is actually going to look gorgeous, and I really want to make one, and I'm probably going to make it in grey. You know, when I have spare time and all that, which personally I don't get much of. Okay, so grabbing your yarn from a brand new ball, or you have to do yarn management that we talked about in the video, whatever that second ball of yarn is, if you're using these colour changing yarns. And I'm so glad that that yarn was a completely different colour than this, because that's just what reminded me. Otherwise I would have joined that in and just kept going. And then what would have happened is probably both fronts would be different in colour, and that would drive me nuts. So we're going to attach our yarn. Sorry for talking too much there. People say I talk too much, but it's just me. It's my personality. So we're going to work a chain 2 or 3, or do your alternative double crochet, and we're going to do 2 double crochet in the same space. And after we've done our 3 stitches, this is the top of our cardigan, so we're creating the armhole. So I don't know if you remember, but last time we created the armhole at the end of the row, of this first row, but this time, because it's on the other side, it flips over, so we have to create it at the beginning of the row this time. So you're going to go back to your written pattern and have a look where it said to write down how many shells that you wanted to skip. If you haven't written it down, which I hadn't written it down because I'm just reading off my computer, I skipped 21 for mine. So you're going to find out how many you skipped on the other one, so how many stitches that you skipped in the armhole. Should I just unfold this mess? See the armhole here? Remember how we skipped all these stitches? You're going to count how many that you've skipped. So mine was 21. You may have a different number if you're making a different size. You want to chain that many, so do your chains. and we want to skip the same amount of stitches. So we want to skip 21 stitches. So if you've got a different number, you're going to skip that many. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21. I cannot find a stitch marker at this precise moment. This is just to remind me when to stop crocheting. I'm just going to add that elastic band. Now there's the first, using elastic band. It's just when I pick this back up I may lose my spot. So we're going to skip the amount that we skipped on the other armhole. So again, for me it's 21, and then we're going to crochet into that next space. So my 21st stitch is here and the next space is there, and we're going to crochet into that. I find if you hold this chain, it saves this spinning around on your crochet hook, and we're going to work 3 double crochet in the same space. See how I let go and it started spinning. Okay, so we've created our second armhole here. And now what we want to do is I'm just in my head, yes, we're at the top of the work. And at the moment we're working our shoulder, so we're not working any decreases at all. So we are just going to crochet all the way across. And here it transitions from granny square, which is there. That's the corner of the granny square, that blue. And then here is the first row of the back section that we had. So you'll see your stitches are actually sideways here. So you're going to come along and crochet along, and this is the corner of the granny square. So there's a space, and then a space. You're just going to treat that as it transitions into the back section as just spaces, and you're going to put 3 in each, and then when you get to the end I'll meet you when we're there. So pause the video and I'll see you there. When we get to the end here, you probably already figured it out, but I am going to show you what to do. You can see you have a space, so you know you've got one. This is actually supposed to be 1 stitch at the end here. That's what it's representing. So because that's 1 stitch, you know this next row has to have 3, right? Because we've just done that 10 bazillion times. Okay, slight exaggeration, but you know what I mean. So then the next row is going to have the single stitch. So it's a chain 2, a chain 3, or your alternative double crochet. So now we're working straight and we're not working any decreases at all. So we're just working the shoulder, if you remember back. Sometimes it might be a few days since you've crocheted, or even a few weeks, so you do kind of forget. So if I keep reminding you about things, it's just because I don't want you to think, oh, what did I do? Just caught my yarn there, silly little thing. Okay, so yeah, so now we're literally just working our straight section of our pattern. So if you look at our written pattern, you will have the instructions there, and that will show you what to do. And you are just going to work our straight section. So it was when we did our 3 stitches, and then we had 1 at the end, then we had 3 at the end, or at the beginning, however you are working. So this started with 1 stitch, so you know at the other end of the row you're going to end with 1 stitch, and then you'll start the row with 3 stitches and end it the next row with 3 stitches. So continue on, work the same amount of rows that you did for your shoulder, and then I'll show you how to work our decrease. The next part in the pattern, we have to replicate the shells that we skipped. Remember, we did that on the other armhole. And it says when we get to the chain, we have to replicate the stitches of the groups of the 3 double crochets that we skipped on the previous row when we created the armhole. So we want to make as many shells as the ones that we skipped, and for me it was 21, so I need to put 21 stitches around this chain here. Remember how last time when we did it in groups of 3, because we're just replicating the shells. So you do the 3, and then you kind of leave a space on the chain. Sorry if I keep going out of screen. This is the first time I've filmed, like I said, since February. And it is not as easy as it looks to do that. You have to really concentrate. I'd forgotten how much I concentrated. So you pull them apart like that, so you've got your groups of 3 shells. So work your way across, and I'll see you when we are at the end part of this row. And when we come to the end, we are going to work 1 double crochet into the last stitch. And that's just created the armhole, as you can see there. So now what we need to do, oh gosh, I just felt like I was talking like play school or something then. And now what we need to do is start our next row. So we're going to chain, I'm chaining 2, remember? You know this, you're chaining 3 or the alternative double crochet. This is where it kind of goes a bit weird. It all goes out of shape there, but it doesn't matter, it will stay. So we just did our 1 stitch at the end, so you know that you need to do 3 now. And then work your way across. And don't forget, because we haven't really got anything to stop those stitches moving at the moment, stop these ones here moving, that they could shift. So just check when you're skipping to your next space that you do have your 3 stitches there. Make sure, yep, that one's alright. And then just work across, and then we're just going to work all the way across, and I'll meet you at the other end. Pause the video and I'll see you there. I'm not sure what's happened, but my camera has decided that it wouldn't record the last part. I'm sure it was something I've done, but all you would have done is you would have come across, get that part of the way, you would have come across and you would have just come up to the end, and you would have put stitches in the end, because you've got your 3 stitches here, 1, 2, 3, and then you would have come along and there would be a space. So you're going to put your 3 stitches in, then you're going to chain up 2 or 3, whatever you have been doing throughout the pattern, turn your work and work across the other side. And the ends of our work are still continuing with the 3 1 3 1 combination on both ends, because at the moment we're just creating the shoulder of our cardigan, and we want to repeat for the same amount that we did on the other side. Now I think mine was a 9. If that's wrong, I will put this across the screen. I think I did 9 rows. You've got it written on your written pattern as well, so you can have a look back at that. So we're just going to replicate what we did on the other side, and then we're going to work the decreasing, which is what I will show you how to do in the next video clip. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we're ready for our decreasing. I have completed the same amount of rows that I have for the first front, and I finished on a right side row. So you can see my stitch marker there, and I finished, and my yarn is over on the left hand side there. My yarn is still attached, and what we want to do is complete the next row. At the moment I'm at the bottom of my cardigan. This is my bottom edge of my cardigan, and what I'm going to do is complete the next row as normal, but when we get to the end it's going to be slightly different, because this next row is the first row of our decrease, but because we've swapped sides it's sort of backwards to what we did before. So before our first decrease row we started it at the beginning of the row, but this time it's going to be at the end of the row. So continue on. So our next part, my next part will be chain 2 and then work back across as I normally would. So do that, pause the video, and I'll see you at the end of this row. When we get to the end, we're going to make 1 double crochet in that last stitch. And when we go up for the next row, we're going to make our chain. We're going to turn our work around, and instead of working 2 more double crochets into this space here like we would normally, we're going to skip that space and go into the next one and work 3 double crochet. And work our way across like we would normally. And you can see here that is the start of the decrease, and you can see it's starting to slant. And if you've got that stitch marker, I'm going to just use a paper clip, and I've just pulled the side out there so I can hook this in, and this is just for the top of our work to remind us where the top of our work is. And I'll just push that across so it locks it in. These work really well actually for stitch markers. They can get stuck in your work, but if you're really desperate like I am right now, that's what we can use. This is my first video I've filmed, and since I've been back in my new location, and I don't have my desk set up properly, and I'm just remembering things that I need to put out, so I need to have a little dish with stitch markers, scissors, and sewing needles. Anyway, that's probably something that you didn't really need to know, but so you can see our decrease starting there. So we're going to continue across, and we are going to work all the way across and complete the bottom edge the same as we have been. So, you know, the 3-1-3-1 pattern at the end of the row. And then when we come up to here, this is where our decrease is different. So work your way across, and then when we come back to this decrease section, I'll show you what to do. I'm just coming up to the end, and this is the end of our stitch marker, so we know this is the top of our work and where we work our decreases. In this stitch here, in this space here, I'm just going to work 1 double crochet, and I'm going to chain 2. You can chain 3 or whatever you've been doing throughout the project. We're going to turn our work around, and we're not going to crochet into that space. We're going to crochet into the next space for 3 double crochet, and then we're going to work our way across and complete the end of the row as normal, whatever is next in our 3-1-3 at the end. We're going to continue working like that until we have the same amount of rows as the other side. So pause the video and I'll see you when we finish this section. I have finished my sides, as you can see from the photo on your screen, and this is what it looks like when it's laid flat. You can also see what it looks like when the sides are folded in as well. So the next part in our video, we are going to sew the shoulders together, and this will be at the top where the shoulders are, just above the armholes. So get out your yarn needle and a pair of scissors, and we're going to get ready to sew the shoulders together. And we're going to put wrong sides together. So this is the wrong side of my work. My stitch marker is on the other side. So we're going to get the 2 fronts, we've got our armhole there, and we're going to fold them over. And we're going to have this top edge together, and that's what we are going to be sewing up. So you can see my stitch marker is still attached. This is just one of the fronts, and that's where we started our decrease. And we've got our armhole here, and we're just folding it over so that the 2 tops here, this is the back of my the back of my cardigan, and this is one of the fronts. We're going to place them together, and I can get rid of this stitch marker now, so let's get rid of that. And you want to fold it. See how we've got the armhole here and we've got this stitch. You can just fold that like that, so it's basically sort of in the halfway mark. And you can crochet this. I like to sew this because I just like the way it looks. I found if I crocheted it together, it didn't look right at all. So you're just going to put your yarn needle, see how this is the angled side, and then it goes straight right on the corner there is where we're going to start our work. And then we're just going to go to the back and just find a stitch that we can go through. I'm going under both loops, so if you were going to crochet this, you would go under both loops like that, and then we just pull through. Don't pull all the way through because we need to fasten that off. I am actually going to tie a knot. Don't normally tie knots in crochet, but I am going to do that there so that doesn't fall out. Again, making sure it's all together. I'm just holding it with my hand just to keep it in place. And we're going to work our way across, and at the moment, let me just make sure, we are looking at the outside of our cardigan, so we want to make sure that these stitches are really neat. I'm just going to poke that under there to keep out of the way. Gonna make sure these stitches are really neat. And we want to tug on those so they disappear. It is a bit hard for you to see because I am using the same colour, but I'm just going into each stitch, making sure I'm getting 2 loops. It just seems to be better, the 2 loops. I'm just sort of working my way along. This front side, you're working into the side of the stitches, where the back side you're working into the top of the stitches, meaning this is the side of the work here, and then on this bit you can see how it's actually just the top of the double crochet. So you're just keeping the stitches close together. Some you may go through twice, that's fine. But you don't want to pull too tight on that because you don't want it to bunch up. You probably won't know this, but I actually forgot to film this bit. And I went on my merry old way and then realised I hadn't sewn up the shoulders. But hopefully by the magic of editing you won't notice. But you will know now because I just told you. So in the last stitch there, you just want to make sure you haven't left a little tiny hole, which I mean you're going to have that hole because that's from the crochet, but just where you join it. And that looks great. I could not find a piece of yarn that was almost the same colour as this, but I think because it's one of the colours out of this yarn, it'll just sort of go with it. And I'm just tying that off, so I'm going through, and before I pull that loop tight, I'm going through the loop, so through the loop, and then just pulling, and then we just need to sew in our ends and hide those. So yes, you can see where I've joined it, but my lighting's pretty good here, and most of the time when you walk around in natural, it's not that good. And this will be the top of my shoulder, so I'm pretty sure you won't see that. And if it bugs me that much, I can actually undo it and redo it. Okay, so we've sewn our ends. We can do that now. So I just go to the back of my work to do that. So just poke it through to the inside. Whoops. And then just hide it in here somewhere. Go through about 1 inch, and then go back the other way. And then cut your yarn. And because we're on camera, I didn't do it correctly. That was the most dodgiest sew-up job ever. That's just where I've just tried to hide my ends. Oh, there we go. I can fix that off camera. I'll just sew it in a bit better than what I just did. Ah dear, we'll keep that in just for humour. See, I don't get it perfect every time either. And I've got to sew my yarn tail from this end as well. And you're going to do the same, and you're going to sew up the other shoulder as well.